Well, thank you, President Clinton and Prime Minister Blair, and thank you, Victor, for putting together this extraordinary panel today. Thank you very much. I'm Matthew Bishop. I edit I've written this book, Philanthropy, which I'm never, frankly, going to have a better opportunity to promote than today with this extraordinary panel today. Philanthrocapitalism, this word that I coined in The Economist, describes a new movement that it seemed to me had gone largely unreported, which was bringing together the heart and the mind, the heart of the desire to solve society's problems and the mind of the business people in the world who seemed to me to be some of the most creative and innovative people. And Davos, it seemed to me, was the place where those philanthrocapitalists, as I call them, actually gather together to do some of their greatest brainstorming. And so it seemed to me absolutely an appropriate place that we have this discussion here at Davos as to what is the role that philanthrocapitalists can play in getting us out of this terrible economic and social mess that we now find ourselves in. I hope that this is going to be the feel-good part of this Davos, where we actually do start to see what the opportunity is in this crisis. And so I'm going to ask each of our panelists to kick us off by talking about what is most exciting them at the moment about the philanthropic work that they're doing. And then we're going to talk a bit about the impact of the crisis and how we work our way forward from here. I'm going to start with Bill Gates, who in the book I describe as really the leader, maybe the greatest leader of this philanthropic movement, who has just written a letter in which he reports that he's increased his giving, despite the foundation falling by 20% in size, to $3.8 billion this year, which is the highest amount that any foundation has ever given away in a year. And he's just written a letter explaining how the foundation is doing and how it's grappling with these enormous challenges. So Bill, perhaps you'd talk a bit about what's exciting you about the potential, even at this difficult time.
Great. Well, I'm not all that negative. Maybe it's not my nature to be negative. I'm thrilled at how the causes of the poorest, whether it's health or agriculture, are more visible today than they were 10 years ago or even 5 years ago. You know, things like the Global Fund, the Global Alliance for Vaccines, the use of development assistance in a far more effective way. Development assistance has come up off its minimum, but also the portion of it that really has an impact is dramatically higher. And foundations absolutely had a role in raising that visibility and in doing some of the pilot projects and participating in the activities where 3 million people are getting AIDS drugs, malaria deaths in the areas where there's been a focus are down by 50% in many cases, and getting the drug companies, by giving them money, by encouraging them to be involved, they are doing fantastic work. If you take the diseases that account for over 80% of the difference between the poorest and the richest, it's 20 infectious diseases, there is a dramatic increase in the drug companies' work in those areas. And there was actually a thing that was written that ranked the pharma companies. GlaxoSmithKline came out on top. It was called Access to Medicines. And the people who didn't come out on top are now saying, well, what do we do to at least not come out as far down as we did? So you have a positive cycle there. There is a lot of uncertainty left in this crisis. It's probably why it's most interesting as opposed to the raw numbers. I mean, if people knew, okay, here's what's going to happen, it's easier to adjust to than the possibility, wow, if the market can go down 30% in 1 year, can it do that again next year and the next year? And then the numbers really do start to add up a little bit at some point. So far, government generosity has not been reduced. It's stayed actually on quite a positive track, where Europe is the best. The US has been improving as well. And very few countries, I call out Italy as one in the letter I wrote, have actually made reductions. There were rumors of reductions in France, and there was actually civil society, led a bit by Oxfam, got people really to speak out. And so the cuts that they'd at least considered there didn't actually take place. Also, in terms of philanthropy, the portion of the possible dollars that we could tap for philanthropy that are actually tapped is so small that even a 20% reduction in those dollars shouldn't affect, at least over a 5-year time period, the growth and the size of philanthropy. I mean, in China and India, it's still up in the air whether people broadly and rich people engage in philanthropy on a large scale or not. In Europe, you have a lot of foundations, but the payout from those foundations are minuscule today because they're not subject to minimum payouts. If you could just raise that a little bit, you can offset the 20%. And the progress in the science is there, and I don't think, as bad as this crisis is, I don't think that's going to slow down. We're more focused on those things, whether it's seeds or drugs, and great stuff is coming out of that.